This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Thursday, the 19th day of May in the year 2022. I'm Gordon Mosley, and here's what we're tracking tonight. The inaugural Regional Agriculture Investment Forum and Expo opened here in Georgetown this morning, with President Irfan Ali indicating that Guyana and the region are ready to address food security and the region's agriculture potential head-on.
I am very humbled by this opportunity to join with my dear brothers and sisters in not only launching and participating in this Agri-Investment Forum, but in sending a strong, singular message. That is, together we are ready to move forward in every aspect of the food production system in this region.
While focusing on the state of global agriculture and some of the initiatives that the Guyana government has undertaken to ensure that the country's food supply is adequate, the president said regional leaders must work closer together and be steadfast in the efforts to reduce the region's food import bill.
We, the leaders of CARICOM, through this Agri-Investment Forum, must send a strong message. We must correct the imbalance. We are and we must be prepared to achieve the target of 25 by 2025. We cannot lose this momentum. As a region, we cannot continue the importation of billions of dollars in products that we can produce right here locally.
Agriculture and food security remain one of the most important issues for the Caribbean region, and most of the regional heads spoke about their own government's concerns about food security in the region at the opening of the conference today. The Agriculture Investment Forum and Expo is being hosted by the CARICOM Secretariat and the Government of Guyana. CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Burnett, in her address at the opening, reiterated the importance of the event to the region.
For the Caribbean community, investing in Vision 25 by 2025 for greater food and nutrition security is not just a concept, but an urgent necessity. It is a statement of commitment by the heads of government, which demonstrates that the time for action is now. The path to the transformation of our regional food systems is in our hands.
The CARICOM Secretary General noted that global challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic, the increase in food prices, and the challenges of the supply chain caused by the war in Ukraine cannot be overlooked. In the next 2 days, regional agriculture experts and government officials will participate in panel discussions and examine investment opportunities linked to agriculture and agri-processing. The discussion will also focus on women and youth involvement in agriculture, as well as labor and production issues. More news coming up in just a moment.
How fast is fiber? Think fast. GTT Fiber has 3 packages with download speeds of 50, 100, and 150 megabits per second. That's fast enough to stream movies and music, to chat with Gran and Fran, to study, and more. What would you do? Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow.
To me, it's all about Genesis Band Lunch, Guyana National Park. I'm going to be there. Genesis Band Lunch, all my ladies, come out because it's going to be a movie. And you know when young brother reach DJ to represent the ladies them love when young brother is in the building. What kind of house he does in girls? He said VIP Genesis Band Lunch. We going and be mad.
Plans are moving forward for the establishment of the landmark Gazte Energy project. Gas will be piped from the Stabroek block operations to shore. The project is expected to cut electricity rates by more than half and deliver significant benefits to Guyanese.
Yo, Atlantic is a big bad city for his pushing out the GT. Don't forget the 29th of May we got in Bliss Land, yeah. Atlanta we say, Stitchy Vice Mushy Live, you know, so we're gonna do some covers like bye. Must get a ting, must get a ting. How we out a GT. All of the guys, them a wine and shake. The Guyanese woman, them a number one. Yo, flashback we say. Bliss Launch 29 to be Atlanta, Stitchy Vice Mushy Live. Keep my name out your mouth.
We've got exciting news! All 12 ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
full
get your
color.
Buster $100. Come get your Buster $100.
At the opening of the Agriculture Investment Expo this morning, various regional heads of government urged more support for the region's agriculture industry, as they also called for the lifting of tariffs that continue to affect intra-regional trade. Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda Gaston Brown called on regional leaders to address the concerns of their sister CARICOM states.
We must also resolve to act urgently in our own interests, including by honoring the terms of the CARICOM Treaty and not permitting breaches of it by, let's say, countries that from time to time impose these illegal non-tariff barriers on goods, particularly products from other member states.
And the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, said the region's leaders have a responsibility to be more proactive in allowing foods into their countries from other Caribbean states.
We have a responsibility now to change mindsets and to change policies. Our SPS regime, sanitary and phytosanitary regime, must be modernized to ensure that safe foods can enter, circulate and exit the single economic space efficiently. And I will deal with it from our perspective because I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. In Barbados, we have a responsibility also to be more agile with respect to those things that we do to allow goods into our own territory from the region, as we will expect every other territory in the Caribbean community so to do. Because if we don't make the steps now to remove the barriers, God knows how we can create the productive base that President Ali has so masterfully drafted for us in terms of the plans to expand productivity and to expand production.
Meanwhile, Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt encouraged his fellow CARICOM leaders to continue to buy local and to support the economies of other sister states. He said Guyana continues to supply Dominica with produce like rice and sugar, and he reiterated that as CARICOM nations, there is an increased need to support each other first.
We as governments, we speak about helping farmers. But in the process of attracting jobs in the tourism industry, we give concessions to these hotels to import food from outside the region. Can we not address this and say, let us first buy from your country, and that which you can't find from your country, you can find it from a brother or sisterly country within CARICOM?
The statements made by the regional leaders follow concerns from the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry about the existing tariffs that have been affecting the export of some Guyanese-made products and produce to neighboring Trinidad and Tobago. The Guyana government has said it continues to aggressively address that issue. The full court this afternoon was divided in its decision on Vice President Barra Jagdeo's appeal of the default judgment granted against him in favor of opposition Member of Parliament Annette Ferguson over a defamation suit that she filed against him. As a result of the decision of the trial judge, who found that the statements made by Mr. Jagdeo against Ferguson were defamatory and libelous, still stands. Chief Justice Roxanne George ruled to dismiss the appeal filed by Mr. Jagdeo, while Justice Priya Sunirayan Bihari ruled to allow the appeal. The attorney for the Vice President, Davindra Kisun, requested and was granted a stay on the ruling to consult with his client on the possible next move. The court granted a stay of 8 weeks. The default judgment was awarded against Mr. Jagdeo back in March of last year, after he failed to file a defense within 28 days of the filing of Ferguson's statement of claim, which was done in January of 2020. Jagdeo, who was first represented by the current Attorney General Anil Nandlal, had argued that he was preoccupied with the 2020 national elections and the constraints brought on by COVID-19, and those issues led to him inadvertently failing to file the defense, though it was drafted. On the other hand, Ferguson's attorney, Lyndon Amsterdam, argued that the pandemic is still affecting the world, and he went on to point out that it did not affect Mr. Jagdeo from filing within a few days of the judgment order to pay an application to have the same judgment set aside. Jagdeo, through his attorneys, asked the trial judge to overturn her own judgment, but that application was dismissed, with the judge declaring that his excuse for not filing the defense was unreasonable. The matter was then appealed to the full court, which reserved its ruling until today. Today's ruling could see the matter coming to an end, but it is likely that another appeal may be filed in the matter by Jagdeo. Well, let's tell you that the chairman and commissioners of the Guyana Elections Commission met this afternoon with Attorney General Anil Nandlal on the proposed reform of Guyana's electoral laws and amendments. The meeting took place at the Attorney General's chambers and lasted for close to 2 hours. After the meeting, opposition-nominated GCOM Commissioner Vincent Alexander told news source that the meeting was nothing more than a fiasco.
So there's no GCOM position. What turned out is that this chairperson seemed to have made some submissions, which are one, her own views, an internal submission we made for this internal discussion. She submitted those to the AG's office. In today's meeting, she then went through what her submissions were. We made it clear that GCOM was in no position to have an interaction as a collective, because GCOM had not collectively discussed anything, though we tried on more than one occasion to have such discussions.
The opposition commissioner said there should have been detailed discussions and agreements at the GCOM level on the proposed amendments. Ms. Alexander said the opposition commissioners stand firm on their position that GCOM's participation in any reform process should follow on from a review of election 2020, the conduct of which has occasioned the reform. Additionally, they believe that a reform should focus on agreed to and ventilated concerns of the stakeholders, rather than the concerns of a stakeholder, the governing party, which Ms. Alexander said has assumed the posture of the complainant, prosecutor, judge, and jury in the post-election period and in relation to the need for electoral reform.
First thing is, we are of the view that GCOM must have a proper internal review of its systems, particularly what happened during 2020, because it's only such a review can allow anyone to know what are the deficiencies, the flaws, the gaps that need to be plugged. Outside of that, any approach is unscientific and ad hoc. And so we see that as a necessary precursor to determining what needs to be done. To have the AG sit down wherever he sat down, with whoever he sat down, and to determine that these are the proposals, we don't know what is the objective and scientific basis for that. And we are saying there must be a proper process of determining what are the areas to be addressed. When we know what are the areas to be addressed, then we can sit to address them, and in those circumstances, the majority view may prevail.
The GCOM commissioner said he now believes the commission has now been challenged to do what it has not done, and see if the chairperson and the other commissioners are committed to performing their duties as a true commission. The opposition commissioners also believe that the manner of conduct of the proposed reform is undemocratic, flawed, deficient, and self-serving, and is not an appropriate platform for the birthing of the substantive changes that are required. They said they cannot embrace the current process as formulated, notwithstanding their commitment to the much touted and needed reform. One day after the Director of Public Prosecutions discontinued the private criminal charge that was filed by woman police constable Shonat Bullas against attorney Nirvan Singh, the police constable picketed the DPP's office, pointing out that the DPP has stripped her of her right to be heard by the court.
And I need my case to be heard. I need it to be tried. Both Nirvan, if there is something to hide, let it come forward. Let the public see. Because that night it was it impacted me, and it will stay a scar in me for the rest of my life. I need the public to know. I need my case to be heard. I need it come to trial. What is there? Let it country, the world see what we as black women endure in the Guyana police force.
The DPP did not give any reason for her decision to discontinue the matter against the attorney, who is the son of retired acting Chancellor Justice Carl Singh. The attorney for Ms. Bullas has already indicated that he plans to challenge the DPP's instruction to discontinue the matter. During her solo protest today, the woman constable said all she wants is for justice to be done in the matter. She expressed disappointment with the DPP's decision.
So when I wake up this morning, it's then when I get an impact that a woman like myself, who could be my grandmother, my mother, regardless of race, could throw a case away like that without no reason. Because I'm a person that usually reads a lot. So when I check the section where it's under, I was like, there is no reason as to throw the case, no explanation.
In the private criminal charge, which the DPP discontinued, Bullas accused the attorney Nirvan Singh of racial hostility towards her. She complained that he hurled a number of racist remarks at her after allegedly spitting at her and chasing her out of his father's yard, where she was on security duty. Although an official police complaint was filed in the matter, there was never any decision made on charges against the attorney, and that triggered Bullas to file the private criminal charge. Today, the People's National Congress Reform criticized the DPP over the decision to discontinue the matter. The PNC said the actions of the DPP will be seen by many as not only unprofessional and unprincipled, but also as a decision influenced by considerations of politics, race, and social status. Let's tell you now that the Civil Defense Commission will soon have to begin a search for a new Director General, as the current holder of that position, Lieutenant Colonel Kester Craig, has opted for early retirement from the Guyana Defense Force. Mr. Craig has already proceeded on accumulated vacation leave, which could take him straight into his early retirement next year, once it is approved. In a brief comment to News Source about his decision to retire from the GDF early, which will result in him leaving the top CDC post, Lieutenant Colonel Craig said having served the GDF for all of his youth, he believes he needs to be prepared for other career development. He said as he gets older, his perspective has started to change, and he does not want to wait until he's 55 to try to start his second career. He noted that under his tenure, the CDC grew exponentially in terms of talent development, but also in terms of physical infrastructure, policy development, operational readiness, and stakeholder and private sector engagement. He reminded that the CDC won the Public Service Award for Excellence from GCCI last year. And when he takes stock of all of that, he believes it is the right time, and that is why he has made the decision to retire now. The 42-year-old is adamant that the decision to seek early retirement was his decision, and his decision alone. There have been reports that there were impending moves by the administration to remove him from the top CDC post and have him return to the GDF for full-time duties. Lieutenant Colonel Craig has been attached to the Civil Defense Commission for the past 15 years, beginning as an operations and training officer and rising to his current position as Director General. He was appointed as the Director General of the CDC in 2017, after spending 2 years as the Deputy Director General. The senior military officer has been praised for his stewardship of the CDC over the past 4 years. Under his watch, the Civil Defense Commission has been praised for its early response to the nationwide floods last year, Guyana's assistance to other CARICOM states in their time of need following natural disasters, and the country's early response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In August of last year, he was appointed as the Vice Chairman of the Association of Caribbean States Special Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction. Lieutenant Colonel Craig joined the Guyana Defense Force in 1997.
Yo, Atlanta is a big bad city vice pushing out the GT. Don't forget the 29th we got Bliss launch. Yeah, Atlanta we say city vice mushy live. So we're gonna do some covers like bye. Must get a thing. Must get a thing. How we out a GT. All of the guys them a wine and shake. The Guyanese woman them a number one. Yo, flashback we say. Bliss launch 29th May. Atlanta city vice mushy live. Take my name out.
Have you heard the news?
The CPL is back.
Yes!
The finals coming to Guyana.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's going to be a carnival of cricket.
It's going to be a carnival of cricket.
It's going to be a carnival of cricket.
See you there.
Tell it to your enemy and tell it to your friend. Watch Guyanese girl, them a hurtle, and them a do it in a circle. Watch me, missing each and every year. Flashback come again. Tell it to your enemy and tell it to your friend. Well, if you're ready for the party, yeah then. Flashback, tell them a the trend. Pala missing. This are not butterfly nor no bees. No girl can whine like Guyanese. Watch the young them a do it in a circle. Guyanese girls them a dance in a circle. Hear me and say no, me go banter. You know I some boy killer represent the Golden Smile family. You know say flashback old school party. You know say oh the vibes is plenty. Slow down.
We've got exciting news! All 12-ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
full
get
color.
your Buster, $100. Come get your Buster, $100.
Fuel it up and drive, super 95. Tune up, fuel it up and drive, super 95. Tune up, protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guyana Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guyana's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, Brazil's democracy and independence of its judiciary are under threat from the government of President Jair Bolsonaro as it prepares for elections in October. That's according to a group of lawyers and legal experts who have filed a petition with the United Nations. The group of 80 jurists and legal researchers appealed to the UN Special Rapporteur on the independence of judges and lawyers to visit Brazil and report the current attacks on the Supreme Court and the Superior Electoral Court that oversees elections. The courts face an unprecedented campaign of distrust and public threats to judges who decide against the government's agenda, they said in their petition. Bolsonaro has repeatedly alleged that Brazil's voting system is liable to fraud without providing any evidence, even though he was elected in 2018 with the electronic machines introduced 26 years ago. Before a crowd of thousands of supporters back in September last year, Bolsonaro uttered a series of direct threats to the Supreme Court, extolling disobedience to judicial decisions and even threatening specific judges, the petition noted. Cuba's vice foreign minister has denounced the Biden administration's partial rollback of Trump-era restrictions on remittances and travel to the island, calling U.S. policy toward the island one of continued hostility and economic blockade. The U.S. measures announced on Monday mark the most significant changes in U.S. policy toward Cuba since President Joe Biden took office in January of 2021. His administration said it would open the door to increase travel to the island, do away with the Trump-era cap on remittances, and promises to further boost visa processing. The measures, however, stopped well short of the historic rapprochement on the former President Barack Obama. The Cuban vice president, in a television program on the state-run media, called the announcement and information sheet sparse in detail, although with a heavy load of hostile language toward Cuba and a dose of derogatory. The Cuban vice president, in a television program on the state-run television station, called the announcement and information sheet sparse in detail, although with a heavy load of hostile language towards Cuba. And finally tonight, international news. Sri Lanka has defaulted on its debt for the first time in its history, as the country struggles with its worst financial crisis in more than 70 years. It comes after a 30-day grace period to repay $78 million of unpaid debt interest payments expired on Wednesday. The governor of Sri Lanka's central bank said the country was now in a preemptive default. Defaults happen when governments are unable to meet some or all of their debt payments to creditors. It can damage a country's reputation, making it harder to borrow the money it needs on international markets, which can further harm confidence in its currency and economy. Asked whether the country was now in default, the central bank governor said the position is very clear, and that is that until they come to the restructure of the debts, they will not be able to pay them. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley, reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.